This way. Eyes this way. And if it beeps and goes off, that's no problem. So yesterday I wasn't here, but I understand that you guys read quite a few pages in Under the Blood Red Sun, and you also talked a little bit more about that idea of power. Dude, you should not be touching that during this time. And who holds the power. You even went back to Hatchet and talked about who held the power in Hatchet. So Mr. Butz said you had a really good discussion. He did say that during your time on the carpet there were some behavior problems, that people maybe weren't as focused as they should have been. So I'm going to ask you one more time, and I'm not going to ask you again. If you're on the wall, your body and your eyes need to be this way. Okay? You're not staring out in that direction at the clock. Okay? Otherwise, I don't know if we're going to be able to sit against the wall like that, because we really need to be focused during this short time we have together. And so today, I think you got, and you guys started to have a conversation about Pete Wilson. And Mr. Butz said that you brought up some interesting points about Pete and why he acts the way that or why he might act the way that he does. So there's somebody who could give like a brief summary of the discussion you guys had about that, about why Pete might act the way he does, because he seems pretty evil to me on the outside, and there's going to be some more things that happen that will make you think that the Wilsons are pure evil. But I think you talked a little bit about maybe why he is the way he is. So who wants to share what you discussed, Kanan?
We discussed about how like his dad probably, because he was like yelling and screaming at
Keith.
Yeah, Keith. And we were discussing how we probably think that that's why Keith is like that, because his dad is like yelling and screaming and doing a whole bunch of stuff like that.
Okay, so who was tuning into what Kanan just said and can paraphrase what Kanan said? Who was listening? If you weren't, this is your last chance to catch it. Everybody's going to put their eyes on Lucy now while she paraphrases. Eyes on Lucy Quincy.
Kanan said that Keith is being like that because his dad kind of been yelling at him, and kind of like the way bullies are, like they can't, like if their parents take it out on them, they have to take it out on somebody else.
Okay. Quincy, what did Lucy just say?
She said how the way bullies are.
What did she mean by that?
Like how they like to take stuff on somebody else.
Yeah, so you guys were doing something that great readers do, which is trying to understand the characters' decisions and the way they act, even when it seems like it doesn't make sense. So you're thinking about Keith and why he might act the way he does. You're thinking about the fact that he might be mistreated at home, and you're familiar with maybe people you know that are kind of in this position, and that they then take it out on other people. So if Keith has been kind of bullied around by his father and been called names and been yelled at and who knows, maybe even worse, then maybe that's the way Keith's going to treat Tommy or Billy. Okay? So this is what I want you to learn today. I'm going to teach you that when readers are trying to understand a character's decisions, we need to consider that person's past experiences and also what is happening in the world around him or her. Okay? And when characters like Keith and Billy or Keith and Tommy, when they respond differently to the same situation, we should ask why. That's a good reading habit to get into. Why is he that way? What makes him that way? So we're thinking about their past experiences and what's going on in their worlds. Okay? So we just talked a little bit about Keith, what's going on in his world at home. Andrew, what are you thinking?
Well, I have a question. Chuka and I, Alex and I, we weren't here when we did the loud. Yeah.
Okay, so
I don't have any.
That's a good question. So I'll summarize real quick for you since we're running out of time. So there was a scene where Keith's father was really angry at him and I think he called him an idiot.
Because he shot his dad's new Cadillac.
Yeah. Oh,
he
right,
shot
right,
through the
right.
back window.
Yeah, Keith accidentally shot his BB gun or whatever rifle or whatever he plays with into 22. Yes, thank you. Into Dad's new car, and that made Dad very angry. Most dads would get angry But Keith's dad got explosively angry and really was very mean to him. Yes.
I was kind of comparing this book to Bridge to Terabithia, because I forgot her name, Janice, I think it was.
Oh, the bully?
Yeah, the bully. We figured out that she was like kind of like hid at home. We inferred that she was kind of like hid at home, or something bad was happening at home, and that's why like they acted that way. And I think that's the same with Keith. When his dad was yelling at him, he probably does stuff worse too.
Well, Najwa, you should be sitting in this chair because that's exactly what I was going to ask you to think about, was other books that you've read where you can analyze maybe a bully character or a character who you think kind of makes, guys, it's not time to go yet. You have 4 minutes, so have a seat. A character maybe who you think is mean or just makes dumb decisions, you know, why they act that way. So I'm glad that you made the connection to Bridge to Terabithia. Any other books that you guys have read where you don't, at first, you're like, I do not understand that character, why they act that way. They must be evil, they must be stupid. But then when you really dig deep and you think about that character's past experiences and what's happening in their world, you get a better perspective. Cameron?
I don't remember the book. I don't remember the title, but there was this one kid, there was this one boy, his dad was in the military, and he was kind of being a jerk to everybody. Yeah, Flying Soul.
Oh, Flying Soul, yes.
Yeah. And
Bastion?
Bastion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was being a jerk to everybody in his class, and then we realized that he had to move a lot.
Right.
His dad was
So it wasn't that he was necessarily treated horribly at home, but he had this other reason for closing people off. He was trying to not have to like break off any emotional relationships and be hurt. So he was closing himself off for that reason. So that's a great example of digging deeper and asking what's going on in his life. One more example, Kylan.
In Tiger Rising, the dad was always he took out his emotions on his son when he cried for his mom. He slapped him, and then ever since that, I forgot what his name was, but it was the main character. Rob, and he was just closed in for the rest of it.
So you might be
Most of the
asking,
book.
like, Rob, why are you so closed off? Why don't you talk to your friends about your dad? Why don't you stand up, or your mom, why don't you stand up to bullies? Why don't you this? Why don't you that? Well, when you really think about Rob and his life, you might start to understand the decisions he makes.
Yeah.
Okay, we are out of time, but I want you to read this with me. When you're doing your independent reading today, when you're doing your book club reading today, and when you read forever, you're going to remember, go. When readers are trying to understand the character's decisions, we need to consider his or her past experiences and what is happening in the world around him or her. Stop. That's good enough. Okay. So I'm going to put this one up here. You should be thinking about these and referencing these during independent reading as well. Okay. Now it is time to switch if you need to go to another class for reading. Let's make that transition silently. We're going to make that transition silently, ladies. Thank you.
Yeah, the red.